Let me ask you a question. Did you really think closing day was going to come? Did you think the buyer was actually going to show up? They did. It's closing day for the seller. I'll tell you all about it coming up next. Hi, I'm David Taylor. Welcome to Taylor's Tuesday Tip and Tour. Today we're going to talk about what it's like to be on the selling side of the closing transaction or the closing day. And it is completely different from the buyer. First off, you're getting money instead of giving money, so that's a good thing. But more importantly, you usually don't even go to closing. That's right, you don't need to show up in order to get money, which isn't a bad thing. Now, you do need to show up at some point. And typically, we're going to talk about what typically happens. You go to your attorney's office or meet them somewhere at a title company prior to closing and sign all the paperwork. There isn't that much when you're a seller. There's a master closing statement that has all of the money, and we're going to go over that in a second. There's the deed that says that you're transferring the property from your ownership to the buyer's ownership. And there's a bunch of other documents, but there's really not that much. You know, it's like 20 signatures versus 120 signatures, so it's a lot better. So again, this is typically, but not always, the attorney prefers that you meet them ahead of time because you can sign everything, they can answer every question that you have, and that way you don't have to sit through the closing that could take 90 minutes, 2 hours, 4 hours, however long it is. So when you sit down with the attorney, they are going to go through all of the money side of things. So that's that master closing statement. And then there's also a seller side of it, which doesn't have all the buyer's info. Either way is fine, but what you want to do is you want to make sure that all that is correct. And remember, just like when you were buying the home, on the selling side, it's all highly regulated, but it doesn't mean that mistakes occasionally don't get made. So we want to take a look at that and make sure that everything is good and make sure that the numbers that you were expecting are relatively close, okay? So let's talk about what there is to look for. First off, it's going to have the purchase price. So you've sold the home for $500,000. That's going to be up there first and foremost. Then there's going to be any credits that there are. So, you know, if you've agreed to give a $10,000 seller credit, that's going to be listed there. If there's a home warranty, that's going to get listed somewhere on there. But then also all of the other expenses that go into selling a home. So there's title company fees, there's an attorney fee, there is the real estate commission, there is city or state or county or all three transfer tax. It depends upon the municipality in which you live, who pays those. But most of the time it's the seller who's paying at least some of those. And then there's, those are kind of the main things. But those are, they're big ones there. So, tax prorations. Let's talk about that. So tax prorations are in Illinois, in Chicago, we pay in Chicagoland. We pay our taxes in arrears, which means here we are in 2021 when I'm recording this, and we have not paid taxes yet for 2020. At least we haven't paid the final tax bill. So early February, a notice gets sent out, or early March, depending upon when it is. Notice gets sent out to all the homeowners in Cook County or Lake County or DuPage County or whatever county. And it says, hey, you owe us 55% of the previous year's tax bill. So let's say that tax bill, $10,000 taxes. You're going to pay $5,500 towards the 2020 taxes based upon what the 2019 taxes were. So if it was, 2019 taxes of $10,000, your mortgage company, or if you don't have a mortgage, you're going to write a check for $5,500. Then in the summer, we find out what the actual taxes are for 2020. So 6 months after the fact, they're like, hey, taxes instead of you owe us $10,000, that's $11,000. So those taxes get prorated depending upon how the contract is written or how the attorneys have agreed to prorate them. They take a look at what the taxes are and they say, okay, great, we're going to prorate it based at 105%, 110%, 120%. It depends upon a bunch of different factors, including where we are in the cycle for your township getting reassessed. So every 3 years, in Cook County, we get reassessed. So the northern suburbs 1 year, the western and southern suburbs another year, and then the city of Chicago all the same year. So 2021 actually is Chicago. So we don't yet know what's going to happen. We know kind of what's going to happen based upon what happened with both the northern, western, and southern suburbs. But we also, we don't have a firm number yet. And we also didn't have a pandemic when 2019 or 2018, the assessments, when the assessments were done for the northern suburbs in 2019. So anyhow, so the tax prorations, that's a big number that comes off the top. And you may be reimbursing them, $10,000 or $5,000 or $25,000, depending upon the amount of your taxes. Remember, because I know you're like, I hate that, which you should hate that. We all hate paying taxes, or at least many of our taxes we hate. But one of the things to remember is that when you purchase the home, you got a big credit from the seller when you were the purchaser. So it may not have been $10,000, it might have been only $8,000 or $7,000 or $5,000 if you've owned it for a while. But you received that money at some point. Now it's your turn to give it back to the buyer. And I make sure that you know all of this. We're going to talk about taxes throughout the process, from the time we list your home to the time we get an offer. When I prepare a net to seller worksheet, it has that in there. That's actually like the second line. The first line is, this is the purchase price, and then we start subtracting things, and that first subtraction is the tax proration. Okay? So, so we kind of just, those are the things that get, subtracted. And at the end of the day, on that master selling sheet or the master closing statement, it says, this is your net to seller. This is the amount of money, the net proceeds that you as the seller are going to get. And they're going to issue that, they being the title company, they're going to issue that to you either as a check, or if you prefer, they can wire the funds to your account. Now, if you're turning around and buying another home, it's probably going to be a wire or some form. We can talk about that totally separate, but let's just say you're not buying a house right away, you're going to get a check or a wire, and the money's going to go into your account. Okay? So the other documents that you need to sign, the warranty deed, that transfers the title over to the buyer, and then some other documents. Then you're also typically going to sign a power of attorney giving your attorney, the seller's attorney, a limited power of attorney just to sign any documents on your behalf in case there's any changes or typos or anything that needs to be done. Okay, so it's pretty short, pretty simple. You should be able to be in and out of there in 30 minutes or so. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. It kind of just depends upon your attorney. But you definitely want to make sure that you understand everything that you're signing, especially the financial side of things. So that's pretty much it. You're going to leave your keys with closing. Either you're going to leave your keys with the attorney, or you're going to leave them with me, or you're going to leave them in the house, typically like in a kitchen drawer or sitting on the kitchen counter, along with any manuals or anything like that. That's it. Selling a home is pretty darn simple once we get to closing. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. Feel free to call, text, or email me. I'm happy to answer. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back again with the Taylor's Tuesday Tip and Tour next Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.